The movie starts with our main character, Craig Schwartz, a talented puppeteer. Even though he has big dreams, he hasn't been very successful at work and is struggling to make money. Craig is married to a woman named Latte, but they don't seem very happy together. Latte loves animals and has filled their home with many pets, like a bird, a chimp, a dog, and a cat. Latte doesn't like that her husband spends most of his time on his hobby and often tells him to find a more stable job. One morning, Craig sees an ad in the newspaper for a file clerk job at a company called Lester Corporation. When he gets there, he finds out the company is on the 7th and a half floor, and the ceiling is very low. This means employees have to bend down when they walk, which is very uncomfortable. Craig then meets the company's boss, Dr. Lester, who seems like a nice and friendly old man. After a short chat, Dr. Lester easily gives him the job and tells him to go to the orientation room. Next, Craig goes into the room and starts watching an orientation video. The video explains that the building was built in the 1880s by a man named Merton Flemmer, whose wife was very short. She often felt small and not important, so Merton built this place to make her feel special. After the video, Craig looks around and sees a pretty woman sitting in a chair. He tries to talk to her, but she doesn't seem interested and ignores him. The next day at the office, Craig tries again to talk to the pretty woman and flirt with her. He says he doesn't know her name or what department she works in. Craig then suggests a game where he guesses her name, and if he's right, she has to go out with him. The woman agrees because she knows he won't guess right. But after thinking for a while, he says Maxine, and she is surprised. In the evening, we see the two of them having drinks at a bar. Craig seems very nervous and finds it hard to talk to her confidently. Maxine thinks he might be gay, but Craig tells her he's not. He also tells her that he wants to be with her. The two start talking more about each other, and Craig tells her that he is a puppeteer. Maxine doesn't like this and immediately ends their date. Feeling sad, Craig goes home and apologizes to his wife for being late. He then goes to his workshop and starts making puppets of Maxine and himself. He makes the two puppets talk to each other and have a romantic conversation that ends with a kiss. The next day at the office, Craig again approaches Maxine and tells her that he has fallen in love with her. He says he has never felt this way about anyone before, not even his wife. She turns him down, cold as ice, saying she's not interested in puppet shows. This breaks his heart, so he goes back to his office to organize his paperwork. While he's sorting through his files, a document falls on the floor, and he has to move a heavy cupboard to reach it. As luck would have it, he accidentally discovers a secret tunnel behind the cupboard. Without a second thought, he steps inside, and the door slams shut behind him. He tries to figure out what's going on, but suddenly, a mysterious force pulls him in. In the next scene, he sees the world through someone else's eyes. The person is walking around a house and stops in front of a mirror. Craig is shocked to see that he's become a famous actor, John Malkovich. John leaves the house and hops into an Uber. Even the driver recognizes him and gushes about his work. Craig is amazed to experience life as a superstar, but after 15 minutes, he finds himself in a ditch on the side of the highway. Still reeling from this crazy experience, Craig returns to the office and tries to explain what happened to Maxine. He tells her about entering John Malkovich's mind and seeing the world through his eyes. However, she dismisses him, thinking he's just trying to strike up a conversation. That evening, while Craig is relaxing at home, he gets a call from Maxine. She's been thinking about what he said and wants to turn it into a profitable business. Craig is hesitant at first, not wanting to exploit this strange phenomenon, but after some convincing, he agrees. The next day, Craig and Latte head to Lester's house for dinner. Craig reveals the secret of the portal to Latte. She's intrigued by the bizarre event and wants to try it herself. Craig agrees and takes her to his office, where she enters the tunnel. A few moments later, Latte suddenly finds herself inside John Malkovich's mind. She's thrilled by the experience, but after 15 minutes, she's back in the ditch where Craig is waiting. An excited Latte wants to do it again, but Craig refuses, reminding her that they're going to be late for dinner. The couple soon arrives at Lester's house, where the old man greets them warmly. During dinner, Latte excuses herself to go to the bathroom, but has trouble finding it. Instead, she stumbles upon a room filled with pictures of John Malkovich. Latte is stunned by this and later shares it with Craig on their way home. They're not sure about the relationship between Dr. Lester and John, but they suspect that the old man must know about the portal. The following day at the office, Craig is with Maxine, discussing their plan to advertise their business in the newspaper. That's when Latte unexpectedly shows up, surprising them both. Craig is annoyed by his wife's sudden arrival, but he has no choice but to introduce the two women. Shortly after, Latte announces that her experience last night was so surreal that she now believes she's transgender. Craig is furious and calls her ridiculous. They almost fight, but Maxine stops them and asks Craig to let his wife go back into the tunnel. Maxine gets John's phone number and calls him. She pretends to be a fan and asks to meet him. John is used to these calls and wants to hang up, but she quickly tells him when and where to meet. John thinks about it and decides to meet her. Latte, who is inside John's mind, also knows about the plan. She asks Craig to take her to the tunnel at 8 p.m., but she doesn't say why. Later that evening, Maxine and John are on a date, and John is amazed by her beauty. Latte, who is inside his head, also finds Maxine attractive and starts to fall in love with her. Maxine notices this but doesn't mind. After 15 minutes, Latte is sent back to the ditch, and she drives home with her husband. The next day, Craig and Maxine find their first customer, a man who is overweight and insecure. He pays $200 to experience what it's like to be John Malkovich for a short time. That evening, Maxine is having dinner with Craig and Latte. They smoke weed together, and Craig and Latte suddenly kiss Maxine. She pushes him away and says she's not interested in Craig. She also tells Latte that she likes her, but only when she's inside John's head. Maxine leaves the house, and Craig and Latte look at each other awkwardly. Over the next few days, Maxine starts a relationship with John, but she only has sex with him when Latte is inside his mind. During their intimate moments, she calls him by Latte's name. John finds this strange, but ignores it because he doesn't want to lose this opportunity. Craig becomes sad because both women have left him for each other. One evening, when Latte gets home, Craig blames her for betraying him and ties her up. He forces her to call Maxine and set up a meeting through John. The scared woman does what he says, but instead of letting her go, Craig locks her in a cage with her chimpanzee. He goes through the portal and, using John's body, has sex with Maxine. However, Craig gets too excited and keeps telling John to touch her breasts. John gets scared and realizes that someone else is controlling his body. Craig goes back home and excitedly tells his wife that he had sex with Maxine. John meets with his friend and tells him that something strange is happening to him. He feels like someone else is controlling his body, and it started when he met Maxine. His friend just laughs and says he might be high. John suspects that Maxine is a witch with supernatural powers. One evening, he goes to her office and sees a long line of people. They say they are waiting for a chance to enter John Malkovich's mind. This scares him, and he tries to cut the line to enter the portal first. The others try to stop him, but quickly realize it's John Malkovich himself. Soon after, he confronts Maxine and accuses her of messing with his life. He insists on going through the portal to see what's happening. Craig is hesitant and warns John that it's dangerous, but Maxine tells him to let John go. John enters the portal and finds himself in a strange restaurant world where everyone looks like him. Even more bizarre, no one says anything except the word Malkovich. This terrifies John, and he soon finds himself back in the ditch where Craig is waiting. John demands that Craig close the portal forever, saying he can't take it anymore. But Craig refuses, saying the portal is his source of income, which he can't afford to lose. John threatens to sue him, but Craig doesn't care because he knows how to control John. Meanwhile, Latte is still in the cage, but her chimpanzee senses her distress and cleverly unties her. Latte is overjoyed and hugs the chimp with tears in her eyes. She immediately calls Maxine and tells her that Craig has been holding her hostage. She also reveals that it was Craig, not her, who has been making love to Maxine over the past few days. Surprisingly, Maxine isn't upset. Instead, she is impressed by how well Craig manipulated John. Latte's heart breaks because she thought Maxine loved her. Maxine admits she does love Latte, but is very confused right now. Maxine then goes to see John, who tries to shut her out. However, Craig soon takes over John's body, and they begin to make love. Craig shows Maxine how to control John by manipulating his body like a puppeteer. He reveals that he has finally gained full control of John and is no longer ejected after 15 minutes. They then discuss the idea of Craig staying inside John permanently and using his money for their lavish lifestyle. Elsewhere, a distraught Latte goes to see Lester and tells him everything that's happened. The old man isn't surprised and reveals that he knows all about the portal. It turns out his real name is Merton Flemmer, the one who built the office building. He explains that he has been using the portal for many years to achieve eternal life by inhabiting the bodies of people like John. Along with a group of older people, he has been planning to take over John's body permanently on his 44th birthday. Craig warns Latte not to use the portal again, saying it will lead to a different world where they'll be stuck forever. He takes her to a room and introduces her to his old, boring friends. 8 months later, Craig is still inside John's mind and married to Maxine, who is now pregnant. Craig has changed John's career from actor to puppeteer and is famous. However, Maxine is not as happy as before and misses Latte. One evening, Craig comes home from a puppet show where he was honored for his 44th birthday. He is worried because his wife is missing. Dr. Lester calls him and says he must leave John's body or they will kill his wife. Craig is in trouble because he would be miserable without John. Maxine is being held captive by Lester and Latte. Lester says Craig hung up on him, and Latte is angry. She wants to hurt Maxine. To save herself, Maxine goes through the portal, and Latte follows her with a gun. They travel through John's memories from childhood to adulthood. They finally return to the ditch, and Latte tries to shoot Maxine. Before she can shoot, Maxine says Latte is the parent of her child. She explains that the baby was conceived while they had sex through John, and that's why she decided to keep it. Latte is emotional, and they hug each other. Lester continues to pressure Craig, and Craig finally decides to leave John's body to save his wife. He arrives at the ditch and sees the two women hugging. Craig tells Maxine that he left John's body to save her, but she doesn't care. The women leave him and drive away. Lester and his friends go to the portal to take over John's body. 7 years later, Maxine and Latte are married and have a daughter, Emily. Craig is trapped inside Emily's mind. He went back to the portal that night, but was too late and got trapped. Now, he can only watch his ex-wives live happily through the eyes of their little girl.